A few general instructions before we commence the event. I request everyone to ensure that their phones are either in airplane mode or silent mode to avoid interrupting the flow of the event. I request you to kindly limit your appreciation to applause only. Kindly refrain from hooting or shouting. The audience is requested to maintain the decorum of the auditorium. Thank you. Yes, Madam. Kindly rise as the guest enters the auditorium. Thank you. Kindly be seated. Education and learning are the cornerstones of personal growth and societal progress. DAKSH is an annual education and career guidance fair hosted by the Student Council of Christ deemed to be University. It focuses on various opportunities made available to pre-university, undergraduate, and postgraduate students. Daksh is here to guide students to acquire knowledge and make informed choices regarding their higher education and careers. Through active participation in the stalls, dialogues with eminent speakers from various disciplines, as well as personalized career counseling sessions, students will be able to learn about various vocations and fields of study they could pursue. On that note, we welcome you to DAKSH 2024, the annual flagship event of Christ deemed to be University. I, Pihu Pantri, will be your MC for the day. To be an activist is to speak. To be an advocate is to listen. Society can't move forward without both, as rightly put, and I quote from Eva Mary Lewis. Please join me in welcoming our guest for this session, Dr. Mrinal Satish. We would also like to welcome our faculty coordinator for this career talk, Dr. Pukraj Agarwal, for giving a token of thanks to our esteemed speaker. Our gift hamper is sponsored by Bistro Claytopia, India's first concept cafe. Bistro Claytopia is the melting pot of people from various cultures who share a common passion of blending art with food. At Bistro, they strive to give the best possible experience to all their customers. They are committed to quality, value, and your complete satisfaction. Dr. Mrinal Satish is the criminal law expert focusing on sentencing, gender, and law impact studies. He holds accolades including the Enlang Scholarship for LLM at Yale Law School. A former member of India's Supreme Court committees, he has chaired the Delhi Judicial Academy and contributed to law reform projects. Serving as an amicus curiae, he aids the Delhi High Court on critical cases addressing issues like prison conditions and custodial violence, displaying a robust commitment to justice. I request our speaker for the day, Dr. Mrinal Satish, to please come up on the stage to enlighten us.
Good afternoon, and thank you for inviting me to this event. It's my pleasure to be here at Christ University again and to speak to all of you from the law program. I've been told that this is predominantly students who are enrolled in the law program, but there may be people from outside the program as well. But I'm going to consider that most of you are from the law program, but I'll just give a little bit of introduction to study of the law as well. Again, those of you who are law students, I don't think need too much of a introduction or too much of a uh, roadmap to careers in law. I'm sure you've looked at all of it before opting for law as a career option. So I'm going to share a bit of my views on careers in law, and I requested that we try and keep it interactive so that if you have questions, I may be in a better position to answer those than have a monologue on telling you what I think careers in law are. So just to begin, I think those of us in the law and in legal education, uh, what are the skills that legal education provides you? Now, as you're coming in into law programs, you will realize that there are a spectrum of skills that you get in a law program. That includes, for instance, research skills, because that's one of the most important skills that you need to have to be a lawyer. And so, therefore, uh, we try and understand the rationale behind the law, the reason why a enactment has been brought into force. We try and look at the legislature's intention behind enacting a particular law or particular sections of the law, and then also study what courts have ruled when interpreting those laws. So again, all of this brings the research skills together. Then I think a strong lawyer, a strong law student has to have a capacity to engage in critical reasoning. When I say critical reasoning, what I mean is that one is there are opinions. You can give opinions, and for those opinions, you might have read something or you might have not read anything, but you have an opinion and you have a right to have that opinion. But when you're trying to talk about something particular in relation to the law, as all of you know, you have to make a reasoned argument. You want your client to win the case, you want to make an argument, say, before the court. You have to have a particular reasoning as to why you think those facts fit a particular law, etc. Similarly, connected to that is a capacity to have an analytical mind and to have analytical frameworks in whatever you're doing. So you're trying to find solutions to issues or formulate an argument. And for that, it's not just descriptive, you're not just describing what the law is, but you're also trying to analyze how its application to the situations that you're talking about. And with that also comes the ability to ask the right questions. Even in research, to be able to research and find something, you have to have the ability to ask the right question. Again, as we know in working in courts, especially, you have to have the capacity to cross-examine. And cross-examination is considered one of the most important skills that a lawyer may have. And cross-examination also is very important that you ask the correct number of questions. You don't ask too many of them, and also ask the right questions. With that also is a skill of interviewing people, of interviewing your clients. You develop interviewing skills as well. And then putting it all of together, you have to have presentation skills in terms of being able to write that up as a written argument, or at the same time to be able to make verbal arguments as and when required. The point of saying all of this is that the skills that legal education gives you are those which will come to your assistance even if you don't make a career in the law, right? Because these skills are useful in life, in whatever you plan to do going forward. So it's always important as a part of legal education, or when you're coming into legal education, uh, to work on these skills, to develop these skills, and to use them in your life going forward. Right. So, what are the avenues for studying law? Again, as those of you who are already in law programs know all of this. But if we were to go back to the history of legal education, we see that legal education originally began as an apprenticeship system. That essentially meant that there were no law colleges as such. You went and worked with a lawyer, you got your experience, and that was it. Then it was felt that there's a need for a strong conceptual background before you get into the apprenticeship system, which is why across the world, and I'm talking about 200, 300 years back, legal education and so law colleges started getting set up. saying that first you get the conceptual background and then you move to two apprenticeships or internships, as we call them now, going forward. So it was recognized that a good legal education is important in terms of making any sort of career in law. So for instance, in India, the Bar Council of India set down guidelines in the manner in which law courses should be taught, what are the subjects you should be studying, and what other things like internships you should be doing. So various law schools and law colleges across the country sort of focus on some of these things and try to provide a robust legal education which people can use, students can use going forward. Okay, so coming now to the topic of career opportunities upon graduation in the law. Like I already mentioned, you can leave the legal sector and do something else, right? But the legal training still helps you in various ways. I am an alum of the National Law School, Bangalore, one of its earlier batches. And I have a lot of friends and a lot of contemporaries who are not doing the law, right? They've set up restaurants, they're in business, they're doing a lot of other things. But the legal education, of course, helps you in your day-to-day business because then you know all the laws required or you know how to find them. But at the same time, like I said earlier, the skills that you get with legal education, of course, hold you in very good stead in whatever you're doing. So even if you think that, okay, I'm in law, but it doesn't interest me that much any at all, and I want to do something else, I think legal education is still a good avenue to get into anything else that you want to do. Of course, there's the conventional route, that is the practice of law in courts. So, in terms of of law in courts, as you know, you require a few years of experience with a lawyer who's already established in the field. And that is where, like I was mentioning earlier, this entire apprenticeship system does come in, where you learn by observation, you learn through, you train through working with someone else. And once you have built up a few years of experience, you're able to then independently set up your own practice. We also have practice of law, as you know, in the commercial law sector, and we have law firms where uh, y- you work with on various issues of commercial law. Those are more famous. Of course, law firms are not only ones that work on commercial law, but a group of lawyers is a law firm. It means you can be doing anything else uh, also. So the commercial law firms again have become more famous or more well known in the recent times. In the recent times, I mean over the last 2 or 3 decades, because that model, which was very prevalent in other jurisdictions, is something that Indian firms also started doing. Then, in terms of practice of law, we have uh, people who act as legal counsels for any sort of establishment that is set up. Now, every company, as you know, requires legal counsel to advise them on a range of issues that they're doing. So you could be in-house consultants in-house within the company, rising up to say the general counsel of the company, or even the people who go up to be vice presidents or CEOs of the companies themselves after starting from being legal counsels. Or on the other hand, you could be consultants to companies, and then you, instead of being with them in-house, you advise them on issues that they may face on a day-to-day basis. And both of these are, of course, very lucrative options because of the fact that um, um, again, there's a lot of work that an organization like a company would be doing. The other avenue is the judiciary. As you know, we have various layers and various stages in the judiciary. So the entry into the first tier of the judiciary at the level of a junior civil judge or a magistrate is by an examination that different high courts conduct. So again, over the last 4 or 5 years, just before somewhere around 2018, 2019, the Supreme Court instructed all high courts to fill up as many vacancies as they can. So judicial exams have been happening on a quite regular basis after 2018. So in current times, there are a lot of vacancies being filled because positions are available. So a career in the judiciary, starting at the entry level as a magistrate or a junior civil judge, is an option that is available to graduates at all times, but more so in the current times because of the fact that these vacancies are being filled up. There are also judicial exams for appointment to the higher judicial services. So people who want to, after 7 years of practice or whatever the requirement that High Court has, can go to become to the level of the district judge straight away instead of starting from the magistracy or junior civil judge level. Again, across the country, if you look, currently there are these vacancies also being filled up. So judiciary at the higher judicial service is also an option. As you know, again, they're direct appointments from the bar that are made to the high courts as well as the Supreme Court. So if the people after after many years of practice in their 40s generally are elevated to the high court benches across the country. So that's again an option within the judiciary that a law graduate may have. Within this framework of the judiciary, I would also put judicial clerkships. Now, judicial clerkships may be at the trial court level, at the high court level, or at the Supreme Court. And these are very good opportunities because you get to work with a judge and you see hundreds of cases on a daily basis, literally. And that gives you training on various areas of law as well as of the process of adjudication. The Supreme Court has also, as you may know, introduced clerkship exams. So, on clearing the exam and the interviews that they hold, you may be able to clerk with the judge of the Supreme Court of India. So these again are lucrative opportunities within working within the judiciary and the judicial system, and I think something that law graduates should try and explore during the early parts of their career. Then we also have opportunities, as you know, in individual sectors. These may be in social sectors. There's a lot of work that's being done in the social sector, be it in terms of something related to corruption or something related to land-related issues, environment-related issues, etc. So all of these sectors obviously require lawyers to help them through the issues that they are working on. So these social sectors do have opportunities available to them. In Bangalore, we know that the IT sector also has a lot of space available in terms of legal counsel and legal opportunities. We have startups that are focusing on the law, and so they also have these opportunities. And of course, again, there are people, law graduates, who are also coming up with their own startups. I saw in your stall downstairs something about whether AI will replace lawyers. Now, again, law graduates are using starting these organization startups which are focusing on AI in the usage of the law. So, moving along with the current demand and the current times. There are also a lot of opportunities available in publishing houses, right? Law publishing again is an important stream, and and requires lawyers to be working with them in the publishing sector. So therefore, the publishing sector is also an important place where there are enough opportunities for law graduates. Then I'm going to talk about what I do, which is academia and research. So in academia, of course, the path is slightly different. If you want to get into legal academics, you have to, as per, follow UGC-related guidelines for appointment. You have to have a master's degree in law after completing your bachelor's in law, and eventually also hold a PhD in law. Um, there is also a national eligibility test, the NET NET exam, which is conducted after the LLM. Uh, and again, if you give the NET exam, that qualifies you to be appointed as an assistant professor of law. There is a demand for qualified faculty members in law colleges across the country. Again, there's so many law colleges that we have across the country, and so there's a high demand for qualified and good uh, scholars who can who can be engaged in teaching. So I think that's an opportunity that that law graduates have. It's more recent times that again with more and more law colleges you have those opportunities available as well. Another area within academia is the research sector. In the research sector, you have think tanks. Think tanks have been working on particular areas of law or in general. So they are places where you could work. And universities and colleges also have research centers, and these research centers have been doing a lot of useful work. And so, again, after completing either your bachelor's or master's in law, you have these opportunities uh, in the research sector as well. We also, as all of you be well aware, legal journalism is something that's again gaining a lot of traction. A few years back, the Supreme Court sort of was very concerned about the quality of reporting on the law and reporting on court proceedings, saying that people who don't understand the law are reporting on court proceedings. So therefore, we need to have qualified people to do that. And hence, subsequently, you've seen both in terms of your national newspapers as well as your specialized law websites and others investing in people who have law degrees to be able to do accurate and important reporting from courts and on legal issues. So, if I give you an example, as you know, the Indian criminal laws were overhauled, and Parliament enacted these new legislations just a few couple of weeks back. And if you look at the reporting around it, sometimes you realize that if it's an area that you know, like it is mine, you realize that some of the things that are reported are actually wrong, right? Which means that people have not understood what the law is, and so they're reporting something else, which leads to the public actually being uh, completely misunderstanding important laws. So, which is where I think the need for accurate reporting means that good law graduates who can understand and write well, who have the capacity to do that, have these careers available in the legal journalism field as well, and that might be quite lucrative too. In addition, again, like I began, we have other sectors. For instance, if you specialize, say, in taxation law, um, again, all the tax firms or the consultancy firms are places where people who specialize in taxation law could work. Similarly, the various other consultancy firms in terms of research relating to operations or research relating to setting up of industries, etc. All look for lawyers, and not only for the legal education, not only for their education in law, legal education, but also for, like I said earlier, the skills that they have with respect to analysis, etc. So that's again an option that you could look at as law graduate. And to conclude, I would say that, yeah, the law discipline is always useful in whatever stream that you would take up, because, like I began, legal education gives you a set of skills that can be utilized in any sort of way as you go forward. So I'll stop there, and I think I'll be happy to answer any questions that you may have.
Hello. Thank you so much, sir. We greatly appreciate your insightful session. I'm confident we have gained invaluable insights and extensive knowledge today. To our audience, kindly be informed that we are now opening the floor to questions.
Hello. Good afternoon, sir. So my question is, do law graduates have any scope of working abroad, like out of India? Like, do we have any scope working on that if we study through the Indian law?
Okay, that's a good question. So yeah, law graduates definitely have multiple opportunities of working outside the country, and there are different frameworks that you may take. So in the US, for instance, the states of California and New York require that you also have a LLM degree from a US law school. And after you take that, after you get the LLM degree, you have to appear for a bar exam there. And if you qualify in the bar exam, these two states is where you can practice. Of course, as you know, the US, although a collection of states have separate state laws, so these two states, as of now, permit foreign law graduates, as long as they get a master's degree in the US, to be able to practice law in those two states. And the practice of law can be anything. But most people would probably go into the commercial sector because because law degree is expensive. You want to get into a sector which also pays you as much. In the UK, the system again is slightly different. In the UK, firms may take you on what they call a training contract and train you for a couple of years, after which again you give a exam. But the UK does not require you to do a master's, unlike the US. So with an Indian degree, you to go in directly and work as long as you pass the exams that they have for entry into the bar. Similarly, again, Australia is an area is a jurisdiction which has been opening up a lot to Indians in the more recent times. So again, you'll see a lot of Indian lawyers in Australia. But again, there are countries where sometimes if you're enterprising enough, you realize that India does a lot of business, say, with a European country, and you want to then specialize in that. So you go work there, say for 2 3 years, and then you become the Indian expert for that country. They're familiar with you, so then you can start getting work. Then you relocate to India and you get work from whichever country that you are specializing in, right? So those opportunities are definitely there. In addition, uh, depending on the area of law that you specialize in, and I'm not, when I say specialization, I don't mean a master's specialization, something that you are interested in. As you know, again, there are opportunities in organizations across the world, be it the UN, if you're interested in international law, or international environmental law, international criminal law, or any of these areas where you can work with the UN and its agencies, or again, organizations which work on specific uh, uh, issues relating to, say, international law, the interface of international law with domestic laws, or sort of comparative law related work. So yeah, I think there's a lot of opportunity outside India for Indian law graduates as well. Some may have entry level requirements, but I think yeah, a lot more to do in terms of those opportunities.
Sir, you talked about legal graduates working in the publishing sector.
Right.
So, can you elaborate a little more on what all comes under the publishing? Because I was interested in that.
Yeah. So the publishing sector would say conventionally start from your law publishers, right? Law book publishers. Now, law book publishers at the end of the day require editors who work with them. And so those to be able to edit something, obviously you have to have not I'm in terms of editing, I'm not meaning just language editing, but in terms of content editing as well. So law book publishers is an area where you would definitely require lawyers to be working with. Now, not if you even go outside the law book publishing sector, in which again, as you know, uh, compared to your law books that you see from other countries, the law book sector in India has focused predominantly on reporting court judgments rather than doing analytical work. But they are publishers which are not necessarily law publishers, but the general publishers like Oxford University Press or Cambridge University Press or Routledge and others, who are getting into that sector as well, of doing not case digests. For example, again, all of you in the first year, you would have Ratan Lal and Dheeraj Lal on the law of torts or criminal law, etc. But those will just give you case after case after case. You still need an editor to do work on that. But if you have an analytical or more concept-based book, which doesn't go section by section but goes by a particular theme, again, you need editors to work on that. So these sectors have always had a requirement of law graduates, but I think more and more now, because of the varied fields in the law that have come up, yeah, so that's what I meant, that publishing houses also look for law graduates to be working with them.
Good evening, sir. So I had a question. So what would you suggest are some effective strategies for navigating career transitions in the legal field itself, like from public practice to in-house counsel?
I didn't get you. What's
Sir,
the?
career transitions in the legal field
Yeah,
itself.
so what do you mean when you say career transitions? So
So,
moving from, you say, one sector to the other.
yes, sir.
Okay. Right. So I think, yeah, I think one thing that we get rigid about is that if I start doing something, I have to be in that, right? I can't transition into something else at all. So we start getting conservative in terms of those approaches. Uh, but yeah, I think if so, I will talk a more drastic move. You talked from a sector, from I say, a law firm to an in-house, which is still along the same lines. But if you want to say transition from something completely different into another sector, let me first take that and then move. Say, for instance, you're working in a law firm, focusing, say, on energy law, right? I'm just making it up. But you want to move into a completely different area with a completely different organization. So from energy law, you want to move to criminal law, all right? So you're not doing something similar at all. So why will someone who's doing criminal law want to take you if you're not specialized in that area? So one method of doing that sort of transition may be to then get an additional qualification, right? So you then get a qualification in the other area that your other area of law that you want to transition into, and then come back to what you want to do. I think the question that you asked, transitioning from a corporate in-house to a law firm, I think is much more easier because you're not going to completely change the areas of law that you're working in. You're basically going from the client to the firm that has been uh, servicing those clients. So therefore, the transition actually is much more smoother, and vice versa. If you're moving from a commercial law firm into an in-house role, uh, uh, that's also easier. But it's the movements, like I said, or for instance, people moving into academia or out of academia, right? In some of those places, you may require, if you're moving into academia, of course, you definitely require a master's, etc. And you're moving out, you may require, again, depending on which area you're going to, might have to work with the particular sector first and then make that move. So I hope I answered your question. Right. Mm. Yeah.
Good evening, sir. Apart from being academically well in a law school, how do you say one could upskill themselves, let's say, through the form of courses or workshops, to be at par with the job market?
Upskill to be on par with what?
At par with the job market.
With the law, what? I'm sorry, you can't.
At par with the job market.
With the job market.
Yes.
Right. I I think the important thing is to keep yourself completely in tune with what's happening around you. Whether you are completely prepared for the job market is a different thing, because again, the job markets, for instance, have very particular requirements which a law college or law school may not give you, and that you would get obviously through internships, right? So, for instance, if I were to tell you that, there are some regulations under the takeover code, are you teaching them in your commercial law course? The answer you would probably get is no, because we can't possibly teach all those regulations. But if that's something that interests you, one thing is to, yeah, do an internship in that particular area and skill yourself so that when that job opportunity opens up, you're someone who has a little bit of experience in that particular area. The other thing to do is also publishing, and I think I should speak a little more about that as well. There is a lot of people tend to write articles or blog posts, etc. But one should be careful, right? Again, of where you're writing or what you're writing, because again, since the internet doesn't forget, something that you wrote when you're first year didn't put enough thought into it might be something that you may be asked in an interview, and you're like, okay, what do I say? How do I respond to this question of something that I had not really thought of when I wrote that as a first year student? Right? But at the same time, if you're able to do good research on something, you should write about it, right? You write an article or something, so therefore you're able to um, do a deep dive in that on that issue. Similarly, again, in universities, you have moot court competitions. Again, not only from the skill of moot court, but if you are interested in a particular area, moot court is a. I always see moot courts not for the prizes you win or the argumentation that you make, but the fact that you're getting to know a particular area in a short period of time by your own research, right? So moot courts can be important learning tools in that way. And of course, when you said upskilling, there are also programs available, online programs now where you can take up some courses which are available through other universities or other commercial service providers. And I think through all of this, of course, you can upskill yourself. Here.
Hello, sir.
Carefully. Yeah.
Good evening, sir. Uh, so my question is, looking at how AI is emerging in the present generation, would you really think there would be a scope for law in the future generation? What are your perspectives on it, sir?
Okay. Right. So let me go back to some of the work that I do on sentencing or bail. Right. So my PhD is on sentencing, and I've written a book on sentencing. So even before AI as the word came in around earlier, I was doing my work in 2009, 2010. People would ask me, "Can you think computers can do the same thing?" Because that's now what we call AI. Um, so AI, what is essentially AI say in the context of sentencing? So sentencing people to prison terms after they've been held guilty of an offense. What it would do is try and collect all information that is available about, okay, in this sort of situation, someone committed theft and the value of what they stole was 1,000 rupees. What has generally been done? What have courts done while imposing punishments on these people? And yeah, so it might say 6 months, right? But the problem with that is the learning data that you're putting into the system may also be biased in terms that the human who's sentenced might have use factors which they should not have while imposing punishment on this person. So that's always been understood as a challenge of any sort of automation, that it will uh, take the prejudices and the biases that existed in the system and multiply them, right? Of course, you can probably say there are solutions to those, and we should find those solutions. So I see currently, I think AI being a challenge to, or not really a challenge, I think maybe a useful tool in terms of, say, drafting standard form first draft contracts, say, for instance, right? Where what a human would do is to change names, right? I replace one company's name with another company's name, two parties' name is something else. So instead of getting that done by humans, you would get that done using AI, right? But can you get to the level of argumentation, role of analytical roles, which I spoke about? As of now, I don't think no, unless we've developed much more sophisticated systems that can do that. So I think AI can definitely be a very useful tool to do work that, like say, like I said, research, right? In terms of if you wanted to read 1,000 judgments on something and try and figure out something, it would take you a year or 2 years to be able to read that. Now you could train software to do exactly what you were planning to do and get that information in one day, and so that saves your time to do your analytical take on that rather than spending 1 year doing work on just reading each thing and making individual notes on that. Yeah, so I think AI can be used as a useful tool. Will it completely replace lawyers? I don't think at this point of time uh, that's not a reality at this point of time, at least. Yeah.
Thank you, sir.
There's
Good afternoon, sir. So my question is, what are the merits of doing an LLM degree outside India?
hmm.
And other than that, can you also elaborate more on how a lawyer can help international bodies like the UN?
Okay. Are there any advantages of doing an LLM degree outside India? I wouldn't say, I wouldn't term it as advantage or disadvantage. I think I'll give you different perspectives on that. Um, Personally, I've done LLM both in India and outside, so I've done both. So, and I did my LLM from the place where I did my bachelor's, which is here at the National Law School, Bangalore. So I have that perspective. Now, what um, uh, I think it's always important when you're venturing into doing LLM to figure out why you're doing it, right? Why you're doing it in a sense, is it because you have a particular interest in a particular field and you see that this faculty, this college has good faculty in that field, which is why you want to go there? Uh, I think that should answer the question of where you have to do the LLM rather than being should it be in India or outside the country. The one thing that education outside the country does is it exposes you to a different system, right? Different system of education. Because in India, you would have got a particular system of education, particular type of education. So it throws you into the deep end with respect to a different system, how they work, how education is done there, what sort of pedagogy they follow, etc. And so it's useful from that perspective, in addition to your being able to get to know people from different parts of the world who might be your cohort there. Um, and the same thing can also happen in a LLM in India, as long as you pick the program well enough that you see that experience in terms of what you'll get out of the program. If you're going to get it in India itself, I don't see a need for to go outside the country. Um, so what opportunities may come after that may be different. Like I said, when one of you asked me, if you want to go work in the US, for instance, in a commercial law firm in the US, you can't get LLM from India and go work there, which makes that a necessity to be able to do that LLM in the US and work in the US. So if that's a necessity, then that would be a route. But if you were to want to come back to India and work in India, again, the experience that you get, the say the specialization that you get when you say do LLM from outside, maybe the same thing that you get when you're doing LLM in India. At the end, you've done that maybe also for a pleasure of learning more and to get some experience, and then you want to dive into legal practice in India. So, which is why I said it's then important to answer the first question as to why you're doing it, and I think then it will automatically you'll be able to figure out uh, where you should be doing it. Now, earlier, earlier there were times when in India the postgraduate education had not been given too much attention by Indian universities, postgraduate education in law, right? But now I don't think that's as much the case. Again, in India, we moved from a 2-year LLM to a 1-year LLM. And with that, I think a lot of good universities are offering good LLM degrees within India. So I think with the duration of both programs now being more or less the same, and good institutions in India also offering LLM program, uh, it's again depends on your interest and ability to finance it also, because foreign LLMs are very expensive. So if you don't get a scholarship, it becomes very difficult to do that. So therefore, the scholarship opportunities is something that you also have to keep an eye on as you look at doing any sort of education abroad. Sure. Sorry, if I've forgot your second question. Yeah, I should repeat.
So about how lawyers can help or how lawyers work in international bodies such as the UN.
Okay, so again that's a broad question because of the fact that international bodies may have offices in India, right? And so therefore, say if the UN High Commission on Refugees has an office in Delhi, they want Indian lawyers to be working on issues in India or abroad. But it is not as much training in Indian law, but training in that area of law that they're looking for. Like I said, because of the fact that there's so many UN bodies and so many different specializations, as long as you're interested in a particular area within that, uh, it depends on which body you're joining. Say, for instance, UNICEF, right? UNICEF does this range of work on child rights law. So if you're someone who's interested in child rights law and you're working with UNICEF, then you're doing all of UNICEF's programs. That could be from training programs to implementing some of the programs that they have on the field. But they will require you to be someone who has some sort of experience in child rights. I think, yeah, that's how you could work with UN organizations in the country.
Due to paucity of time, we would have to end the Q&A session here. So I request Dr. Mrinal to please remain on stage and please accept a token of our appreciation for your inspirational and wise words. I request Dr. Pukhraj Agarwal to please present our speaker with a memento. We now invite Ms. Leanne Thomas to deliver the vote of thanks.
That brings the proceedings for today to a close. We are extremely grateful to our speaker, Dr. Mrinal Satish, for enlightening the way to increase our knowledge. Thank you to everyone who contributed to the seamless operation of the event, including the teachers, the management, and the volunteers. Thank you all for being such a great audience. Have a wonderful day ahead.
I now kindly request our faculty coordinator, Dr. Pukhraj Agarwal, to escort Dr. Mrinal Satish off the dais, requesting students to be seated as our guest exits. That brings us to the end of today's session. This is Pihu Pantri signing off. We request the audience to disperse in an orderly manner. Thank you. Kindly swipe your ID cards while walking out. Thank you.